And the Pelicans win it wire to wire. And led by as many as 41.
Do you almost feel like that trade deadline coming up, you've got a certain amount of time to show management they might have to make some major decisions?
If things stay the same, you know, that's a definition of insanity, right?
The trade deadline is officially over. This means that the Warriors must be insane, as Steph Curry said, because no roster moves were made. So that's the end of the video. They're not going on a run. I'll catch you guys in the next gifted upload. Peace out. Have a good one. Okay, I'm not going to end the video, but you have to understand, as a Warriors fan who's watched every game, it's so frustrating to see this team night in and night out make routine execution decisions, rotations that contribute to them losing games in embarrassing fashions. And then when your star player, your franchise player in Stephen Curry comes out and says the definition of insanity, and you match it by not making any moves at the deadline to make yourself better, it's very frustrating. But wait, at least we got rid of Corey Joseph. I'm very thankful for that, because my goodness, the minutes that he was absorbing on this roster when he's not really a great NBA player. Notice how he got waived immediately as soon as he got traded. It's a thing. So I'm thankful for that at the very least, but it still doesn't answer the core fundamental problems of what this Warriors team is and if they can actually go on a run. Draymond Green absolutely lost his mind, punching people, having to go on the podcast and talk about retirement and just not being in the lineup, which impacts our team greatly because we're already small and we don't have great defensive players, but Draymond raises that ceiling exponentially. So for him to not be there at all makes us a worse team. Christopher Emmanuel Paul signed to this team, and instead of elevating Jonathan Kuminga and some of the other young players physically on the court with passes and whatnot, instead he chose to run a dedicated Valentine's Day-esque two-man game with Dario Saric, his relationship partner on the basketball court, where only those two will be involved in every single action, and the offense could beat some matchups, but against a switching defense, failed to do so. Steph was being way too passive in the first half of the season, trying to get Chris Paul and other players going. He would have many games where he would play passive and then try to cut it on late in the game, and part of that works. That's why he's the clutch player of the year, but part of it, he would just have bad games when he could not turn it on. Steve Kerr's decision-making has been some of the most questionable stuff from him over the last span of this team being a title team and winning championships. He has made a lot of errors in many close games, which, by the way, the Warriors lead the NBA in the amount of clutch time games. I'm pretty sure we're at like 32 or 33, where Kerr is making decisions like sitting Kuminga for crucial stretches of the game or not playing Kuminga at all in favor over other players like Corey Joseph getting more minutes at times, or Moses Moody occasionally having to share minutes with Kuminga, or even worse than all that, Kuminga just flat out getting DNPs, which also takes you to Trace Jackson Davis, who this year is the guy that's getting no play, no consistent burn. But when Kerr's actually gone to him in marquee matches versus the Suns, versus the Celtics, and he's shown up and provided everything we needed with rebounding, shot blocking, and applying vertical rim pressure, because Looney has absolutely none, there's been no adjustments for those. So when you look at all of these factors coming together, that is why the Warriors record is what it is so far this season until today, where they play the Lakers tonight. Now that we understand why the Warriors are in the situation that they're in, the question obviously of this video is, can the Warriors go on a run and make the playoffs? Can they dig themselves out of the hole that they've dug themselves in with half of the season remaining? In the Warriors' last 10 games, they are 8-2 with a top 4 offense and a top 6 defense. The lineups that feature Draymond Green at the 5 with Kuminga and Andrew Wiggins have looked absolutely stellar. Klay Thompson now has a newer role where he'll be transitioning to coming off of the bench, which to me, I think a lot of people make too much noise about. Klay Thompson is playing the exact same way. It's just he's a variance player. So if his shots aren't falling, he's not really providing much value outside of the occasional connective pass to Trace Jackson, who doesn't play anymore, or sometimes his positional defense because he is taller than B-Pods. But ultimately, that's a thing. So all these things are happening right now. There's team be playing the best basketball of the season. But now for the final stretch, they also have the easiest schedule remaining in basketball. They still have a couple hard games sprinkled in here or there, but to close out the season, this team has to have the continuity. They have to show a willingness to execute in the right ways and to stop hurting themselves in so many close game situations. I know that they have the clutch player of the year on this roster in Stephen Curry, but to lean on him as your answer to everything is going to burn him out and potentially make him more susceptible to injuries. So again, is the roadmap there for the Warriors to have success? Yes, but they have to do it in this way. For the love of God, they need to find minutes for Trayce Jackson-Davis. I'll say it again. They need to find minutes for Trayce Jackson-Davis. Who is Trayce? Again, he's a big on this roster that can rebound the ball and provide secondary rim protection. No more Dario Saric at the 5 lineups. We've had a big enough sample size of that, regardless of who you have out there with them. Even though you have reluctance to play Trayce and Dario together, Dario at the 5 bleeds lineups every game. In a bunch of our close games in the third quarter, what often happens, he trots out the Dario at the 5 lineup, where sometimes there are 4 guards accompanying Dario, and the defense gets absolutely barbecued, and the Warriors' 15-point lead or whatever it is dwindles down extremely quickly, and now they're in another close game. They need to stop those. Jonathan Kuminga needs to be unlocked even more on this roster as a downhill threat a bit more consistently. I feel like we still see moments where Kuminga is sharing the floor with Kevon Looney, who, no disrespect, but Kevon Looney's burst as an athlete for this team has really reached its course this year. And more importantly, when he's on the floor with Kuminga, Kuminga doesn't have the clear runway to be the athlete that he is in transition. I also feel like they could run a bit more sets to get Kuminga going in more and more of these games to keep him engaged with the spacing and the pace that they have. Picking up that pace is going to be very, very important. So I think they have to make sure to maintain that. Also, for Brandon B-Pods, we got to be clear about this. B-Pods has been great, I agree. But I feel like what Kerr needs to do to maximize him even more is put the ball in his hands more. Allow him to facilitate the offense more. When Steph isn't on the floor, let him have the freedom to hunt for his shot more. Because when he's not and he's just catching and shooting, when he barely does catch or shoot in the first place, he's not best utilized as a rookie player for this team. I think to get the best out of him, you have to give him a bit more responsibility in those ways, and he'll be an even better player. Please do not overreact to Chris Paul's presence on this team. Just because he's coming back from injury does not mean you play Kuminga less. It shouldn't mean that you play Paz significantly less. And it also should not guarantee Chris Paul is starting on this team or even closing on a night-to-night basis. Please keep the same magic that you've had with these lineups and do not change it severely just because a veteran player that is a Hall of Famer is back into the rotation. It's already hard enough to find minutes for players that fit. To me, I would address it as giving Chris Paul his time in Klay Thompson lineups. I think that makes a ton of sense to get him the best shot quality. But then from there, you just go engage it from game to game to game. And more importantly, don't go super duper small just because Chris Paul is back. That does not mean you have to increase the frequency of the 4 guard lineups that he loves to run. I need him to relax with that because those lineups, once again, bleed a lot of defensive value. So fixing that moving forward is key, and understanding you don't have to overplay Chris Paul because you have other guys who can play and contribute is very, very important for the Warriors to continue having success. Now, all these steps sound great. And again, I'm all about maximizing what this team can be for the rest of the season. I believe with their schedule, and if some of these changes are met at least more frequently, the Warriors should be a much more competitive team. But the question of can they go on a run and win a championship? No. I do not believe this Warriors team is a championship title team this year. I came into the season saying this would be a gap year for the Warriors. Who knows? Maybe they can come in and surprise people. But considering the variance that's on the roster and the lack of consistency they've had all year long, unless I see a dramatic change from the Warriors for the second half of the season, it's hard for me to bank on this team going from a team that was literally at one point the 12th seed in the Western Conference to a team that's in the finals and competing for a title with Denver and other competitive teams that are just better rosters than Golden State as a whole. I just don't see it. I hope for it as a fan. I will be watching every game passionately. Of course, you can catch me on Gold Blooded, where we watch every Warriors game live. In fact, tonight we're watching one, so tap in. Link will be in the description, in the comments. But yeah, I just don't see it. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully they can string some things together. With Steph Curry on the roster, you always have a chance to win basketball games. And even though this team might not be better than some of the teams in the West, the year they won the title, they were not a better roster than the Boston Celtics. But Steph Curry was the difference in the series. I just don't think relying on that for 3 straight playoff rounds to get to the finals is going to be conducive to us winning. So to me, this is a gap year, but at least right now, all you can focus on is playing the best basketball you can to at least give yourself a chance. That's my take on it at the very least. But yeah, that's the video. Again, I can say a whole lot more, but I don't want to make this video too long. If you want to watch NBA games with me, tap in to a site called Playback. The link again is in the comments and description below. We will be watching the Lakers versus Warriors game there tonight. You can click the link, make an account. If you have League Pass, you can watch the game live with us. If not, we have VIP passes we give away for free. So if you want to watch the game, you can watch the game with us in Playback tonight. Definitely pull up. It's going to be a very fun experience. We'll also be doing it with Legend of Winning, another NBA content creator. But as always, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Podcast, I'm still aiming to drop Friday, but I might be super duper tired, so that might get pushed back. We'll see, but I'm still gonna give it my all. I stutter, but it don't matter. No one watches this far anyway. But appreciate you guys. Have a good one. Salute. Peace.